Good afternoon, evening, morning, wherever you may reside. Thank you for tuning in to the first ever edition of your Weekly Ration.
We're brought to you here today by AmericanVanguard.net. It's March 9th. My name is Curtis.
And my name is Jay.
Before we get started, telling you the news and what we think you need to know, just a little background. We're both former Republicans, conservatives even. We followed along a twisted road, the two of us, before meeting common ground and getting together and trying to make a difference in this crazy world we live in.
Crazy indeed. I grew up, I guess you could say, conservative, Republican. Parents were both, what would you say, Rush Limbaugh listeners. In any case, throughout time, I kind of started to question some things, wondering, when you look at from the bailouts to the borders to the wars, who's really representing me? And the more often I see the Republican Party kind of really pushing the same propaganda and rhetoric the Democratic Party was pushing.
Amen. And
so I guess it kind of shook me, and it took me a long, confused, crazy turning road. But in any case, this is where we're at right now, and if you're like-minded and if you find yourself on that same road, we welcome you aboard. If not, please feel free and listen, and maybe yourself.
Drop us a line. I was in the same boat, raised conservative, down here in Texas. I'm making my way up, just like everybody else did, following the Republican rule. It was a little later in my life that I noticed that the things that drove certain people irate about our previous administration are the same things that they're completely happy about during this one. Absolutely,
and that's troubling. It just seems like in any case anymore when you've got two candidates who are representing supposedly vastly different parties.
Let's be fair there was a marked difference between the last election. I think one of them disliked guns more.
Well, yes, you had Obamacare versus Romney care. I'm not sure which.
I guess it depends what last name you like more. Very little difference in the bills themselves.
Which is scary. Essentially, the way I think about it is if you're hungry and you want a bite to eat, do you want a cheeseburger or a hamburger?
And that cheese makes all the difference.
Exactly. And so this is kind of where we're at. We're a bunch of hungry Americans, and we're looking for variety. What if I want a enchilada?
a weird topic.
Some pizza.
What you're saying, I noticed recently that, ladies and gentlemen, prepare yourself, sit down, use your extra large seatbelt. There's a war on for your weight. Apparently obesity is it's just not sightly.
This is a real headline.
It is. Apparently the incessant chants of our fearless leaders concubine have been heard, and changes are in the process.
The war against obesity is officially on,
and people are upset. It strikes me as completely odd. It's very good. It's very good at analytical analysis of what country we live in when you can see guns are being taken, houses are being kicked in the door for unpaid student loans,
mass surveillance programs rolled out,
metadata. We have this. Metadata. We have this. I mean, it's crap. It's crap. Every single part of our lives are being invaded, but you see a conundrum of just obese citizens waking up when it comes to their cheeseburgers.
It's a problem.
It's a problem.
It's a problem.
Let's move, ladies and gentlemen.
Let's move. Let's move to the scale. When it comes down to it, I firmly believe in the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Nowhere in there, though, should anybody feel happy.
I can just see it now, a protest in scooters. Give us back our salt. Then again, New York, it's the pinnacle of our civilization, as some might say, and you can't have salt.
Well, and I guess to kind of dovetail into with the obesity topic and the war against obesity, I don't know what number this is as far as wars, or if you'd even put this as maybe a proxy war. I happen to think it's a full-fledged war. Why are Americans so obese? What are some of these problems that what's causing this stuff?
I would like to take another approach. We used to be number one in our obesity rate. Mexico has just recently, they beat us out, America.
Are you saying Mexico just beat us out as the most obese nation?
They are the most obese nation. You know what's funny is that must be the ones that aren't jumping over fences. When's the last time you saw an obese man swim the Rio Grande? It doesn't happen.
You know, I find this largely unacceptable. You know, in my mind, you know, America is the greatest country on earth, and
what makes it great, Jay?
If that means being number one at
everything that matters,
everything,
like
and obesity
consumption, police state.
I want it all.
What are we, number one in adults who believe in angels? I count myself among those ranks. The other day I saw one. We won't get into that though. That's for Coast to Coast. We're still awaiting an invitation, George Norrie.
I don't know if Norrie does that anymore, but yeah, shout out to Coast to Coast.
Hi. You touched some interesting analysis of number one. What makes us a great country? It's, you know, our wars. A war on obesity or a war on guns? I mean, and just the
war on drugs.
Well, they legalized drugs, so no problem.
That's right, because drugs are illegal, so now there isn't a problem with drugs.
Let's. Oh goodness,
the heroin
fluoride
epidemic.
in our water. Fluoride in our water, and I say that like a posh person. Water. Fluoride in our water. Yet we are more concerned with what McDonald's is not allowed to serve us.
It's the pink slime.
Like no, I don't care what's in it. Just put it between two buns, wrap it up in some edible paper, and
edible paper.
Yeah. And they don't drink. You know, they don't drink. That's the problem. Is these obese, scooter rolling, free weight liberty mindsets. When it comes to water, they don't drink it. They're drinking their Diet Cokes. Drinking their wow, we got way off topic.
We are extremely far off topic, but I do think it's interesting. It's something to note here when you couple the poisons. You touch on fluoride. You touch on chemicals. GMOs.
Ooh.
I mean, GMOs alone.
Love them.
What is it doing to our country? What is it doing to your body?
You know,
why is there this huge effort to hide the GMO, even just GMO labeling?
Let me play devil's advocate here. I don't like your usage of the word hide. I mean, what the government did was try to institute a law that made talking about it illegal. I'm not getting where you're. I'm not getting the word hide anywhere in that sentence. It's a law, Jay. We're a land of laws.
I understand that talking about GMOs could be a national security risk.
Have you seen those guys in their fields? Like, they are spraying. They're head to toe hazmat suit, and they look scared. And they're spraying like an iridescent chemical that I'm sure glows at night over our foodstuffs, and they're like, what? It's good.
What's the problem?
Just don't let it touch you.
What's the problem?
Don't let it touch your lips. Just
you know, you touch on fluoride. I read the back of my toothpaste. I don't know if you've ever read the warning sign on the back of your tube of toothpaste. It says if more than a pea-size amount is consumed,
yep,
to contact poison control immediately. So I'm having trouble. I feel like I'm getting mixed messages here. I hear people say fluoride's good for you.
Who did you hear say that?
And then I go to the dentist and they give me a cup of fluoride, and the dentist is sure to repeat himself no less than 3 times. When he gives me the pink cup, he says, do not swallow this.
Dentists, almost doctors. Gotta
do not swallow this.
Gotta listen to them. It's a poison. And I've had the conversation with several people and had to explain to them, you know why fluoride is put in toothpaste. Because it eradicates germs on the microbe level. That's why you don't swallow it. It's there to clean the organisms in your teeth.
Not to be digested.
For gingivitis.
Napalm for gingivitis. I like that.
Quotation marks.
End quote.
You know, and you were talking about like GMOs as a national security risk. I think only if you ever do anything that can be recorded. But you know, there's a lot of upswing about this metadata recording. I think recently John Kerry came out and talked about the lighter side of your.
This is an actual headline.
It is. John Kerry. He came out and made a couple of jokes.
Reveals the lighter side of mass surveillance.
What was his quote? I think he approached the audience, because he's such a sly, clever cat. He looked at them and said, "It's nice to put a face to the metadata."
How disturbing is that?
I find it hard to hear anything John Kerry says without a hint of some sort of cartoon villain. You know, those big bushy eyebrows just wink at me wrong. You know, they do. I mean, I know that's. and he made another joke.
It's nice to put a face to metadata.
I think what he also mentioned during that just hilarious speech. I think it's hilarious that politicians are able to record our metadata and then joke about it to our faces. But he told the audience that if they liked their rented tuxedos, they could keep it.
Classic.
And as we know, when the government tells us we can keep something, it's
what that really means is they're going to take it back by force and tax you for it.
Taxing.
By force.
Taxing. Nice little segue, nicely done. I actually read something I put on the Facebook page for AmericanVanguard.net, AmericanVanguard.net.
Great website.
Great, just the teats.
Thank you, AmericanVanguard.net, for sponsoring this podcast.
Yeah, they're awesome. But it was a Yahoo story where they actually addressed the guidelines for penalty payments if you don't sign up by the deadline. I think it's the end of March. I'm not signing up.
Unbelievable.
It's interesting. You should read it. Go to the Facebook page, AmericanVanguard.net, and take a peek at it. It talks about how I think it's up to 1% of your income can be taken if you don't sign up. Yet they say inside there, Jay, hear me out here, buddy. They say that it is not used to subsidize the actual health care.
Does anybody believe anything they hear from the Hill anymore?
Think about that.
Are there any of you out there?
It's the Affordable Health Care Act. They want, if it's to help everybody out.
The Affordable Health Care Act.
They openly admit that the penalty is there.
This
to
bill
make you
seems
afraid not to get it.
Eerily similar to the other bills we've seen with these rather nice title. The Patriot Act is one that comes to mind. The Patriot Act, because yes, it's okay for us to listen to your phone calls, read your emails, because that's patriotic.
Jay, I got to stop you here. The illustrious and just pandamount conservative John McCain has informed us all that America is the battleground. And why would you take away, I don't know, your weight or out of that equation? No, everything about you is a battleground.
It is a battleground.
Shaping hearts and minds. We're, shock and awe.
I like that. And you're right. America is a battleground that takes many shapes, many different forms.
Some of them are in a scooter. Some of those shapes are amorphous.
But where are we going wrong here, guys? I don't understand. I mean, there certainly is a problem.
Goodness, that sentence alone is a. Where are we going right as a country? That's the hard question.
Well said.
I can't name one thing one politician has actually done. Now they've said a lot, but I can't think of one thing one politician has done in this fiscal year that has made me smile or made me happy to be an American. I'm not saying that I'm not happy to be an American, but my happiness comes from my citizenry, my fellow compatriots, my friends, Jay here, my wife, my son. It does not come from an understanding that the government is here to help me, because it seems everything they do is one step closer to tyranny.
I have 2 words for you. 3 words.
Jay was homeschooled. And if you're homeschooled, watch out.
We're going to make it 2 words then.
2 words.
Predator drones.
Isn't it? It's hilarious when the president makes threats to American citizens.
I think it's funny. We will never see it coming. But it's sad. It's sad to know how many civilians, innocent civilians, women, children, men, all alike, being targeted by these predator drones.
And it's come in our doorstep, and we see these pictures of bodies stacked high, weeping mothers, and we don't connect humanity to them because we've been force-fed this idea that if you're in a burqa, that you're not allowed to be treated like an American citizen. And we are, not taking away from our brave soldiers out there, fighting on the battlefield, doing what they think is going to keep us safe. But at the end of the day, what mindset does a president have when he can joke about predator drones when we know that at least 2,000 children have been killed by these drones? It's just an anomaly to me.
I mean, we are talking about the same individuals that have openly laughed about there being no weapons of mass destruction. I mean, we have been in war on again, this war on terror, which is just kind of weird. The title alone is weird.
Gotta get them terrorists.
The terrorists.
Terrorist.
But they've come out and admitted, yeah, no weapons of mass destruction, and they laugh about this.
We're working hard.
Oh.
Secretary Clinton.
Well, we're working hard. We're working hard.
We've all heard that clip. How disturbing is that?
You know, and that's the mindset of these people. I watched that video with a sour gut watching Muammar Gaddafi. Regardless of what he's done, he's a human being.
My spirit, that clip alone is just, there's something very wicked, something demonic about just the cackle and
demonic. Good word. Good word. You know,
it's very toxic.
Watch one of these politicians. They don't ever look at you. They look down at you. They have this moral high ground that's backed up by nothing more than the stature that they hold. You know,
when you talk about stature, you know, it seems hard to find or name a politician that we can relate with as American people. What politician out there do you feel has their fingers on the
and this
pulse
is open
of America?
discussion. Go to AmericanVanguard.net, drop us a line if you think that there's a politician out there who really adheres to the will of the people, the people that are here on the ground, not those people in the White House, but adheres to the people. Drop us a line, tell us what you think, and we'll put it on the website if it's good enough.
I mean, we're talking about people who their lives are different, their lifestyles are different. I mean, they throw multi-million-dollar Halloween parties.
Was it 400 Christmas trees at the White House a couple years
John
ago?
McCain was asked how many homes he owns, and he couldn't answer it. He said he'd have to have his staff get back to you about that.
It's accountability. And
how many Americans are there out there, regular guys, who don't know how many properties they own? I mean, I've got to say that's a
powerful statement. That's a powerful statement.
We got to be talking about like the 1%ers here.
And who are the 1%ers? You know,
they're same people
in the White House. It's Hollywood for ugly people, and they get off on this control they have over our country.
Interesting.
And what happens whenever people like us, like, what are we doing? No violent insurrection. No open rebellion. No, we're two guys sitting up here talking about the country we live in and this anecdotal government who rules with a leather fist, you know. And what do? Whenever voices become too loud, they try to pass a bill like net neutrality, control the bandwidth in which conservative, liberal, or anybody.
Well, let's not stop there. What about the National Defense Authorization Act? Why don't we just take it another step further?
Has that been passed yet? Because I don't tend to read bills until after they're passed. We gotta pass it to know what's in it.
That's classic. That's classic. You're a great American.
You're a terrorist. You're a terrorist. I mean, we're in a country right now where George Washington said that a country that the quote, I'm going to butcher it, but he says something along the lines of a country that tries to take the arms away from its people is about to use those arms against its people. You know.
Absolutely. I liked. I believe it was John F.K. who said. Again, I'm probably going to butcher this as well.
We don't do quotes, ladies and gentlemen.
But by making peaceful protests illegal, guarantees makes violent protests inevitable.
Man, powerful. And you think like free speech zones? I'm sorry, we live in a free speech zone. There should be no free speech zones unless you're counting the confines of the continent. You know,
a free speech zone. Again, I can't wrap my head around this. You're free to speak in this area over here.
Even then, I watched a video that's up on the website as well as our Facebook affiliate of a group of police officers shooting. It was classic. They shoot a woman with a rubber bullet who's holding a sign that says, I believe it says, something about totalitarianism.
Oh, fear, yeah.
Fear for totalitarianism.
I saw that video.
And they shoot her in the face. That accident, yes, that's the first thing my mind went to. I like to think that those boys in blue, those riot gear, those guys are there for our protection.
Shot her multiple times, didn't they?
Yeah, once in the leg and then once in the head. And then afterwards, a video surfaced of them getting awards for it. And I guess it's the chief of police is laughing his ass off.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Patting the guy on the back who shot the woman in the forehead. And I believe his quote, once again butchered, is something along the lines of, I love the internet because I get to see that woman in the red dress. He shot her right in the head, and they're clapping and patting each other on the back. And they're dividing and conquering. It's the oldest trick in the book. You divide classes. We have the ruling elite. We have these forcible riot police, these SWAT-trained citizens who have this air of superiority about them because of the badge they have on their chest. And anybody who would allow or acknowledge shooting a woman in the head as a good thing,
yeah,
I mean, they deserve their post to be yanked.
There was another guy that I saw when he was interviewed. He had made the comment. He was one of the guys in the riot gear that day, and he made a comment as when they were asked as to why the police presence, why the riot gear, why they show up in numbers. He started to laugh, and he makes the comment, as soon as we showed up, he goes, I loved watching all the cockroaches scramble.
Oh, yeah.
And it's almost like that is the mentality behind it. They do feel like they are the superior, I guess, and we are nothing more than a bunch of cockroaches. This is crazy. And these are the same police officers that live in our neighborhoods. I mean,
it's a good analogy for them to have, because it seems like whenever somebody like ourselves shines a light on these atrocities, people just scatter away from it. They don't like to talk about it. It's this idea, this moral authority that they have based on their stature, that what they do is okay, even if it's bad, because they mean well.
Well, you wonder how much of it goes toward being given a badge and a gun and this authority. Is that what drives them to the depth of their power hungry?
Absolutely. And ladies and gentlemen, these people are protecting your neighborhoods, or they're not, and it's up to you. They're your police force.
Right.
These people work for you just like our government should. If you see a police officer doing something you don't like, there is 1,000 police officers who are good at their job and who don't speak up because it's not good for their career, number one, and number two, it's hard for somebody to step back and take a look at what's going on if they're knee deep in the trenches.
Sure, and I think just touching on the feeling of power and superiority you get given that title, sure, probably accounts for a large majority of those officers. But what about I think there's something to be said about the gang mentality. Where even the good cops you're finding sticking up for the bad cops. It's us versus them type mentality.
And we got to give the police officers credit where it's due. I mean, we have been force-fed a culture in which police officers are viewed as the enemy, and they're not.
Right.
And you can't blame them for reacting in a hostile way when they're treated in a hostile way. I mean, our biggest cultural boon in the last 2 decades has been hip-hop and rap. And the majority of hip-hop and rap, I mean, they're college kids who got a music degree, yet they speak about shooting police officers and how cool it is. So the average mindset
dangerous job.
of a generation, of our generation at least, was that cops are bad. And so we subjugate ourselves to these tight-knit groups where authority is to be feared and not addressed head-on.
It is. It's a tough job. And, there's I'm sure being a police officer, you're never guaranteed that you're going to be going home, to your family at the end of your shift, and I'm sure that does.
Yeah, but that doesn't make you invincible.
Well, and you didn't sign up to be a cop to be secure.
Yeah.
To have safety that you're going to return home. I mean, go be a telemarketer if that's your thing and that's what you're longing for. Then you're in the
let's
wrong
be honest,
profession.
In a modern age where these guys should be, when they do their job right, should be treated as superheroes, because that's exactly what they are half the time. They're running into firefights and exchanging with these criminals and helping out people who need it. But when you have that bad element, you can't excuse it just because, last week they saved a kitten from a tree. This week they shot a man in his driveway.
Right.
When he was walking out of his house because they had the wrong address.
Because they had the wrong address. Yeah, and I'm wondering, is this one of those where they pulled up in their assault resistant, mine resistant, ambush resistant vehicle, one of these Iraq, type war scenario vehicles that they just, I guess the chief of police across the nation are saying these things are really only going to be used, okay, to issue out warrants.
I mean, yeah, we're a country that's survived for a couple hundred years without the use of assault vehicles for police officers.
You know, I read an article the other day that said you are 8 times more likely to be killed by a cop than a terrorist here in America.
Yeah, I'd like to pull some numbers about how, like in small towns, I know in my city, there was 3 murders attributed to killers. And I can think off the top of my head of 3 people who were killed by police officers, whether or not they were criminals or not. But, you know, if your statistic leads more to police doing the killing, maybe there's something wrong. Maybe there's a training that needs to be initiated. But I think we're going a little off topic here.
Well, yeah, and I guess maybe just real quick before we jump back on topic, you know, I tried to do a little search last week. You know, America, you know, the land of statistics. You want to find out how many people died on the interstates? No problem. You can Google that. You want to find out how many people died from the flu? No problem. You can Google that. You want to find out how many people died from home invasions? You can Google that, and you can find a lot of information about that. However, I thought it was interesting. If you want to find out how many people were shot and killed by police officers in the United States, good luck.
You know,
interesting that they don't keep any stats for that.
That's just the status quo. Oh, that dark and dirty word, the status quo. The status quo is we don't question our police officers. And keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, that we're headed in a direct route to totalitarianism, to tyranny. I mean, you can follow the book. What's happening here in America is the same thing that's happened in several countries. It's still happening in other countries. And what the first sign of that is when a police force is militarized. Like, these people are our neighbors and our friends and our loved ones.
Yeah.
They're not riot police. If we get the idea that they are, then we're less likely to trust them. We're less likely to listen to them. You know, there shouldn't be a fear effect. We should take these guys by the hand and say, hey, we're all in this together. Because when it comes down to the military in our streets, if that ever happens, those police officers are going to be the ones that are saving your life.
Right. Well, and also I guess that's a two-way street also, because we're going to be the ones saving theirs. I saw a great interview. This was from the
Amen.
Open Carry. I want some association down here in Texas, Open Carry Association, and they were down in Austin. And these guys walked into a Subway, a handful of them, with their AKs and their ARs, just hanging off their bungees.
Eat fresh.
Their 1-point slings and whatnot. Eat fresh. In any case, somebody from Subway, no doubt,
love Subway, by the way,
notified the local police department, and they sent a guy down there, a deputy. And it's an awesome video. If you got time, check it out. We'll be putting it up on the site. In any case, the officer made a comment, and he said, you guys aren't a threat. He goes, as soon as I pulled up and I saw you guys hanging around here, he goes, I knew this wasn't going to be a problem. And he says, as a matter of fact, I feel safer seeing you guys out here because I know if there's a problem, you guys got my back.
That's a cop right there.
Indeed.
That's a cop right there.
And that's really what it's all about. It's about, again, these are people in our communities, and we really should be helping each other out.
And we're trying to be a little bit more multimedia than just a podcast and a website. You know, we're planning. It's still in the works, but we're planning to support our local police departments. And I mean, have you checked the ammo shelves in these police departments? Like, it's kind of scary to know the limited resources they have available to them.
Yeah, well, it is. I talked with the police
officer.
Average
citizen is probably the average gun-owning citizen, the average concealed carry citizen is better armed than a handful of police officers. They have more,
without a doubt,
and better trained too.
Without a doubt. I don't know how it is across the nation, but I know down here in Abilene, I spoke to a cop a couple weeks ago, and he said they used to have their ammunition paid for to go target shooting.
Really?
Now they have to supply their own. They used to. Now, if you call this enough training, but he says, according to this guy, he says it was required once a month. Trigger time at a range. Just putting lead downfield. In any case, he said now because of the rationing and the time, he said now it's required to be putting lead down range once every 6 months. For their training.
Wow.
So when you say that the average American is probably far more prepared and far better behind the trigger, I have no doubt that that's the case.
Absolutely. And as we brought up earlier, it's a fear mentality. So can you blame police officers for being a little bit more cautious whenever they're undertrained, underpaid, obviously, and they don't have the equipment needed to handle, let's say, somebody who has a legal AR-15 and who goes a little crazy. We know that happens, and to say otherwise is silly. As a gun advocate, Second Amendment is it's not a right, it is a God-given right.
Well, yeah, and that's tough. It's tough because you also wonder how much of this goes. You speak to the fact that these cops aren't held accountable. So if you know you're not going to get in any trouble,
all around a dangerous scenario.
If you know that there is no consequences for your actions, and then of course you couple that with
undertrained,
lack of training, lack of staff, yeah, you're basically
it's a brew pot of trouble,
a catastrophe waiting to happen.
And then what happens when it does inevitably happen? Whenever a cop scared out of his wits fires at a guy with a golf club after they serve a warrant without announcing themselves, that cop's not going to go out and say, "Hey, my bad. Go ahead and put me in jail." No, they're gonna band together. That's the mentality that's needed in America as a whole, is the whole accountability. And we're an entire generation told that we get medals for participating. We get held to a higher standard because it's nice to do.
Yeah, it reminds me of the when you look at all the raids, the SWAT team raids, and the ones where homes were raided, and they raided the wrong house. I just watched one last week, I believe in Michigan. I forget the state. In any case, the SWAT team was awarded medals for raiding the wrong house.
I believe we have that up on our YouTube channel.
That's correct.
We have a little. It's a scary video, but it details a lot of just heinous acts handled by people who are paid to protect us, paid by you.
Absolutely.
Your tax dollars. they don't do a lot for you, but we should be happy that at least some of that money goes to facilitate our protection from a criminal element. We got to be aware and proactive, not reactive. We can get mad and we can circle a police station whenever a rookie cop shoots a kid with a water gun, or we could be a part of our community, be a part of that police station and nip it in the bud. Be proactive and not reactive.
So when you say the cop shoots the kid with the water gun, who had the water gun? Did he shoot the kid with the water gun?
I'm seeing a FUD summer type cops chasing kids around, shooting with water guns, and then arresting them for having a replica.
You are starting to. It seems to me you are starting to see a big turn in the tide here. You're seeing sheriffs in California, from California to Detroit.
California.
Sheriffs coming out and saying, "Yeah, the civilians need to be armed. They need to arm themselves. Ultimately, it's their job to protect themselves. You can dial 911, but the fight is already over by the time."
Look at Chicago. They have a non-response. They don't respond to anything other than certain key dangerous situations. If somebody's breaking into your house, call the police. In Chicago,
you wait to call the cops for a break-in, yeah, your stuff's gone.
Yeah, there's that story, years ago, of that one guy who, two guys were breaking into his shed. He called the police. They said it's going to be like a 20-minute wait. He called them right back and told them that he had fired and killed both of them. The police showed up, arrested him immediately, and guess who walked out of the garage? The two assailants. They were arrested on the spot. He was held accountable and charged with filing a false police report.
I remember something like that, and it wasn't the response time drastically different. When he said he had shot and killed him,
20 to 2.
Wasn't it like 2 minutes response time?
Yep.
Versus the 20-minute wait if you're just getting burglarized.
Yeah, and this may be fairy tales, butterflies and rainbows, but imagine a community that you were a part of where your police officer was somebody you explicitly trusted with your life. We don't live in that America right now, and to say otherwise is silly, and it's pretty dangerous. We should be actively working for a community in which we're all a part of a greater good.
Without a doubt.
I think we're going to take a few minutes to play something we found pretty captivating. We hope you like it. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Don't forget to visit us on AmericanVanguard.net.
There was that ant that stood up to me.
Yeah, but we can forget about him.
Yeah, it was just one ant. One ant.
Yeah, you're right. It's just one ant.
Yeah, boss, they're puny.
Puny? Say, let's pretend this grain is a puny little ant. Did that hurt?
Nope.
Well, how about this one?
Are you kidding?
Well, how about this?
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up.
Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life.
It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We hope you appreciated that little ant rant. We thought it was a pretty good setup.
I love that cartoon.
It's pretty powerful, you know, and I would like to point out to our viewers that we outnumber the bad guys by a lot more than 100 to 1. We're a country of 300 million Americans. Almost half of them are actual citizens. I can't back that number up.
Did I mention I love that cartoon?
It's a good cartoon.
It's fun.
I'm waiting for its sequel, A Bug's Death. It's a bit on the sad side, but I hear that there is a caterpillar serenade that will just blow your mind. All right.
Good
but
stuff. Good
seriously,
stuff.
that was a really powerful
message.
For
Powerful
a child's
message.
movie. And it kind of talks about, in my opinion, it goes straight to guns for me. A lot of things do go straight to guns, but like, think about that perspective. That's
because you're a Texan.
Yeehaw! You know,
I don't know where that came from, but I hear guns. I think that's because you're a Texan.
And when I think Texan, I think chaps. That's not true.
That's not true at all.
It's not true.
Pickup trucks, on the other hand.
Jalapeno peppers.
Pickup trucks for sure.
All right.
Okay.
Over the break, we were discussing Joe Biden's stance on home defense, and this is an actual quote. He says that if you are in fear for your life, you should purchase a double-barreled shotgun with 2 cartridges, and that in the event perhaps you hear a rustling in the bush and or a dark shadowy presence just out of your peripheral, you should, apparently they have a balcony at their house, you should lean over your
What a luxury.
balcony.
What a luxury.
And fire said cartridge into the brush. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Joe Biden is all for firing shotguns at unseen assailants.
He actually says firing 2 shots from a double-barrel shotgun.
That'll kill the boogeyman.
This is if you guys haven't seen this video, it's really something else. Now keep in mind, these are the leaders of our country. Okay, this is. I don't know if this just goes to speak. I don't know if they do this out of humor or if they are really that far out of touch with reality.
Can I just say that Joe Biden to me in this video looks like a bleached, balding Kermit the Frog.
I wonder if he's ever actually shot a shotgun before.
I'm pretty sure at some sort of party thrown by our government that they were shooting depictions of unarmed citizenry. You know, we're going off topic, but it reminds me of the no hesitation targets. And, you know, surprising to me is correlation between no hesitation targets and the recent, I would say, rash. I'd say more than one is a rash of no hesitation police shootings.
That is a interesting parallel. I think it's one you cannot ignore. Because you're right.
1 + 1 makes 2.
When I saw those no hesitation target, and they call them quite literally no hesitation targets, and it's a picture of a teenage mother at a park, pregnant mother at a park.
Please do yourself a favor, Google these. Take a look at these.
Yeah, I wouldn't do it right after you eat a heavy meal because
No.
it's tough to digest. And then there's the one with the grandfather with his shotgun in a library or the living room of his house. The elderly lady in the kitchen.
Yeah, and they go against, you know, proper gun teachings anyway. I mean, the elderly man was holding the shotgun close to him. His finger was not on the trigger, and the barrel was pointed to the ceiling. I mean, I would like to think that proper training has taught most police officers that if a man has a gun and it's not pointed at them, perhaps there should be cause for hesitation.
Indeed. There's even one target where it's a young boy, 5-6 years old.
Yeah, he has a gun in his hand and he's by a swing set, I believe.
Yeah, it's no hesitation targets. Unbelievable.
This way that they treat guns in general, it makes you believe we're in some sort of Wild West scenario. I mean, we have active shooter drills in schools, and we have a video recently up on the Facebook page. It shows You know, just watch the video.
It's a real headline. That is an actual headline. Active shooter drills in schools. Parents, if you don't know about this, I think this is something every parent should take a good hard look at. Schools across the nation having active shooter drills where they use blanks and fake blood.
And from my understanding, it's common practice for them not to alert the teachers or the staff of what's going on.
To keep it authentic.
There was that one where I believe they were autistic kids. It was a special needs class, and then these kids were peeing their pants, terrified. You know, and we don't need to give the impression to children that it's a slippery slope. When you tell them that a gun is bad in any hands, I mean, so is a lighter, so is a pair of scissors. A pair of scissors.
Oh, yeah.
Oh goodness, you remember Janet Napolitano?
Defend yourself with some scissors. You don't need a gun.
And Janet Napolitano, he's pretty good. I trust him.
Him?
Wait, what? I just heard that Janet Napolitano may in fact be a woman.
I don't know. I think the jury's still out here.
Shocked. But yeah, she said that if you're in fear of your life, perhaps you could use a pair of scissors for defense. And now, I would run with that if I saw every Secret Service agent carry one of those, risk-free scissors with the plastic casing on the outside of it. I mean, you can't even have real scissors in school anymore.
That's yeah.
Sorry,
I'm just thinking about like what a scissor holster might look like, or concealing scissors on it. I mean, this is crazy.
How hardcore do they think the average American is that they can take down an armed assailant with a pair of scissors?
Well, in China, didn't they just have the knife, the massive random knife attack in the subways?
Can you imagine if that was America? You know, the first thing that would happen is Janet Napolitano would probably try to put a ban on knives. We'd be using sporks to cut our steaks. This overreaction from the government when it comes to what keeps us safe is quite appalling. When you think you never see a Secret Service agent, carrying some nunchucks. No, they have fully automatic weapons. We're not even allowed to have them in most cases. It's hard for an American citizen to get a fully automatic weapon, and they're telling us that while it's good for them, it's not good enough for us. It goes back to that moral authority thing, that superiority.
Yeah. Well, they've got armed bodyguards with fully automatic weapons, but obviously we shouldn't have them. We should be using scissors and sporks, I guess. I don't know. I think this whole thing is crazy, and it's super interesting to me when you look at these gun rallies, that pop up across the nation.
Yeah.
Super funny when you actually look at who is attending these meetings.
I think you mean the anti-gun rallies. Just gun rallies. I mean, they're mass attendance there.
The anti-gun rallies. There's nobody there. They will be promoting these rallies like crazy. And like 7 people show up. They had one in San Antonio. 3 people showed up.
Wow.
And it coincided on the same day they were having
the one at the Alamo.
Yeah, they were having a Second Amendment rally at the Alamo, and they had recorded 1,500 people showed up.
Yeah. And that's just what they reported. It's probably a parable to the second American Pie movie where they say, if a man says he slept with 3 women, he slept with 1. And if a woman slept with 3, she slept with 9. I mean, I imagine that if 1,500 people are on paper, it was probably closer to 25.
It could have been. But it's hard to miscount 3.
It reminds me of that video that was all over MSNBC not too long ago. I mean, in the last 5 years, where it showed a AK-47 or maybe it was an AR-15 on the back of an attendant at a gun rally, and they just butchered the actual clip. It turned out to be they were saying that they equated it to racism, and somebody else had the common decency to pan out a little bit and see that it was, number one, an African American male. He was at a gun rally behind a fence, and the gun was unloaded and on his back.
I don't know if it matters if he was black or not. I mean, if he's carrying a gun, I think that pretty much means he's racist. That's my understanding. If you go against the rhetoric in any way, shape, or form,
I'm going to go ahead and say calling it rhetoric is probably on their. You're probably going to get put on a no-fly list. And you know what? No-fly list. TSA agents, scum of the earth. I don't care who you are. If you're a TSA agent, take a good hard look in the mirror and ask yourself.
they keep us safe.
Oh, hey Jay, quick factoid: how many terrorist plots have been thwarted by a TSA agent?
I don't know, but it's got to be a lot because we haven't had another episode like 9/11 in a long time.
Underwear bomber.
Thank goodness that nothing came of that situation.
He lit his underwear.
How about the TSA? You guys remember the little girl that wanted to go to Disneyland?
I'm not aware of this.
Oh, it's super sad. But yeah, she basically was groped, harassed, and this little 6-year-old girl starts crying and says she doesn't want to go to Disney World anymore.
My God. I'm not surprised. I remember that scandal that came out not too long ago about. Now, please Google this. I don't have the facts per se, but I know for certain that there was a big scandal about a Catholic priest who had been let go from the church for sexual misconduct with children was monitoring your child and checking your pockets and Lord knows what else. He was on the front lines, keeping you safe. You know?
No, that's right, and that is tough. And I'm certainly glad that, in this case at least, the priest was able to find a line of work and an occupation that.
Wow, Jay.
Too far.
But it goes to the mentality that they want.
It's total mockery. I mean, you have just a couple of weeks ago, these high-level individuals from the Muslim Brotherhood. By the way,
friends and partners, Muslim Brotherhood, not the domestic terrorists.
Their own country, their own country has deemed them a terroristic group, and they come over here to the United States and get to bypass all TSA screenings. However,
maybe I'm
Grandma and Grandpa getting on the plane, yeah, you're going to need to remove those shoes, old lady. And if you go through in a wheelchair, I don't know if you've seen some of those videos, what they do to vets, that have came home from war.
Oh, yeah.
If you've got...
It's pretty ripe stuff, ladies and gentlemen.
It's unbelievable.
You want to talk about a physical crawl of the skin? Watch the way they behave. The freeze rule. It's true, ladies and gentlemen. Look this up. They had a procedure in which TSA agents were asked to tell people in line to freeze, hold in place, like freeze tag when we were kids. And if they did not comply, secondary screening. I mean, what kind of grown adult thinks they have the authority to tell somebody to freeze? Now, these are 10 badges. So
it's insane. And to think that this stuff is not stopping at the airport terminal check-in. They are rolling this stuff outside of the airport where TSA is now using dogs.
We had in Austin, there was that bus. TSA walked up and started asking people if they could check their luggage.
Absolutely. On a public bus. They're monitoring people. If you're talking in a form, or if you're reading some material. Speaking of reading material, there was the famous case just a couple of days ago. I know this was reported from March 7th, 8th, 9th, but the lady was targeted by TSA because of her reading material. She was reading a Jewish paper.
Did they give any explanation on why that Jewish paper was offensive? Let's give them the benefit of the doubt here. Let's
I don't know.
I would like to know. We'll look into that and we'll put it on the website with a little caption, because I mean that sounds horrendous in itself. I mean, what happens if you have a copy of a Glenn Beck book? I'm not a fan of Glenn Beck or anything, but
you are going to get stopped. Guaranteed. TSA is you're going to get randomly selected for additional screening, and walk in here to this little private room. I remember reading the case about the professor in Colorado. She was returning home from a trip somewhere, and upon getting off the plane, or getting on the plane, anyway, she was groped. She was groped by TSA, and they grabbed her breasts. And she didn't like it. She didn't like being molested, I guess.
Some people frown upon that.
Which is weird.
No, it's just the same Catholic priest.
In any case, she didn't like being molested, so she reached out and she grabbed the female TSA's officer's chest and gave her a little squeeze.
Wow.
She was arrested and charged. Felony charge.
Was it dropped, or do we have anything else on that?
No, I don't have anything else on it right now. I'm sure we can find out.
That just irritates me.
Think about that, though. They can grope you, they can touch you, they can rubber glove you.
It reminds me of that traffic stop. I think we have it on the website, or we'll be on there if we don't have it already. An officer searched, and I hate to be graphic, ladies and gentlemen, but it's the truth. An officer in clear sight of the dashboard camera 2 ladies are searched vaginally and anally by a woman with the same who didn't even change gloves. Like right down they didn't ask him to bend over. She just reached her hand down the back of her pants and penetrated these young ladies.
Unbelievable.
They said that the car smelled like marijuana. I mean, where is it okay to smell marijuana and stick your finger inside somebody?
Unbelievable. It's hard not to think that this is some sort of conditioning taking place.
Absolutely.
That started in the airports to keep us safe, in the efforts to prevent another 9/11 attack. And now we're rolling this out into the interstates, the highways. I mean, this is getting pretty nuts. I mean, I've read over 3,000 TSA checkpoints on the interstate highways.
And now they're going as far as allowing police officers, giving them the authority. I mean, nobody's challenging it, obviously, but drunk driver stop, some people may think that is a good thing. Jury's out on my end. I haven't seen any sort of positive outcome on that. But they're doing distracted driver checkpoints. And ask yourself that logically, if you see a checkpoint and you stop at it, you're not going to be distracted. Not for very long. So what are these checkpoints really about? Are they really there because they think somebody's going to be texting on their cell phone when they have a 5-minute wait in a line of vehicles? Or is it about conditioning?
Right.
A lot of this stuff that's being rolled out by the Homeland Security, TSA, things like the tobacco, alcohol, and firearms, they make these nonsensical rules, regulations, and guidelines that can't be adhered to in any scope in a positive way. They don't do anything for the community at large. It seems like something fishy's going on. If these don't serve any purpose, the only other point is trying to get you used to it.
Well, sure. And getting us used to what? I just read an article 2 weeks ago, Kentucky. And all of these things sound great. These checkpoints against what they call distracted drivers. And when they talk to the police chief about distracted drivers, which is to include texting, and which is obviously very dangerous. But again, if you want to play devil's advocate, what are all these billboards doing on the sides of roads? I mean, that is meant to take your attention off the road.
Great point. And what are they going to outlaw next? Running with scissors?
Well, one of the things I found interesting was the police chief said he included not only texting, but eating while driving. Now, is that safe? Of course not. But is that something that we need to be setting up checkpoints for and arresting people over?
And where are these legal definitions defined by law of what constitutes a food that is distracting? French fries distracting? You're going to eat a burger and get pulled over?
Right.
It seems like we were talking about war earlier and what we lead the charts in. Well, we lead it in war, and we also lead the globe in incarceration. And a lot of these are from these nonsensical laws being put in place. Are we becoming a country that bases our safety on how many people are put in the penitentiary? Because that's not the country I want to live in.
Well, yeah, and when you look at the numbers even, the United States, last time I checked, accounted for roughly 5% of the world's population. 5% of the world's population, yet we also account for 25% of the world's prisons.
We could do a breakdown on what these charges are, but I can tell you right now that the majority of them are petty.
Sure, nonviolent.
Yeah, drug charges. I mean, and you can see somebody shoot somebody in the face. They get 15 years. I watched a show earlier today where a woman shot her ex-husband in the eye. Got 15 years. You get caught with a pound of marijuana, you're looking at the same sentence. Is that justifiable? And maybe as a whole, we can shake the system a little bit.
Right.
We're 300 million Americans at least.
Right.
And 25% of the world's population, or 25% of our population, is locked into a cell for traffic violations, warrants. The other day, we saw somebody get their door kicked in because they hadn't paid student loans. Is that going to be the
SWAT team for not paying student loans?
Is that the new norm?
Guys, think about that.
I hope not.
I love that. Bailouts for bankers and SWAT teams for the American people. It's so true. It's crazy. It's crazy.
If you want to see how upside down our political spectrum is, just do a quick Google search on the guy running the IRS right now. He has a lot of money he owed to the IRS before he took that position. And what kind of logic is that to where these people are held to a higher standard? What was that statistic? It comes out every year. How many sitting members of Congress or the Senate
are
Yeah.
wanted or own.
Have filed bankruptcy, have felonies, have DWIs.
Battered abuses. That was a lot of that.
Yeah, battered abuse. I mean, there's a bunch of them. But I did pull up something here. It looks like this from the Colorado woman, who had went through the TSA screening.
The girl up the TSA agent in
and
return.
she grew up. She didn't like the way that she was being molested, so she, this is a 61-year-old,
My goodness.
and of course, that's pretty foolish of her not to want to be screened in that fashion. In any case, she reached back. She grabbed back. Now, this Jay Dickman, I'm not sure. It looks like he's looks like a superior for the TSA. He had some interesting things to say, and he says she should face charges. He goes on to say it's inappropriate for her to do that. These people are just doing their job. Let me stop right there. They're just doing their job.
Kind of rings Nuremberg trials, doesn't it?
They're just doing their job.
And wow. The quote goes on to say that they're not here by their choice. I'm sorry, did they not file an application?
That's crazy. They're not here by their choice. It's their job description. I mean, what is this? They're not here by their choice. They did not choose this job. This job chose them.
Do we start conscripting people to TSA employment?
They're just doing their job. I mean, that is totally insane. He goes on to add that if you're flying, you accept the rules of flying too. He said that's something we have to go through. It's nothing any of us chose. I'm not sure. We got to dig into this Jay Dickman.
Yeah,
this
he should
guy
be getting a phone call from us.
He will be hearing from us. And then, of course, TSA issued a statement after that lady was charged. And
she was charged.
Let's see here. It looks like she was charged. Let's go back to the suspect. Yes, she was the suspect here.
Do we have a choice to fly nowadays, ladies and gentlemen? Like, is it not part?
It doesn't say what she was charged with here. It says she was arrested. Let's see. TSA issues a statement, and they say TSA officers work every day to protect the traveling public. And the agency will not tolerate assaults against its workforce. Think about what's being said here.
I would like to see their definition of the word assault and see if it's comparable to what that poor lady went through.
So if a TSA agent grabs you, that's not assault. They're just keeping you safe. If you grab the TSA agent, well, now that's assault, and it will not be tolerated. This is mind-blowing.
I think it's a clear-cut definition of our new hierarchy. We are peasants under the. I mean, we're debt slaves. We're law slaves. Everything we do is held under a microscope and recorded. Yet there can be pedophiles working for our protection every day. And
sure,
I would go as far as to say that if you touch a woman's breast and she didn't ask you to, you're a criminal, regardless if it's in your job description.
Sure. Yeah, but there's tons of these articles. There's another one here where a Florida woman was charged. It looks like they charged her with battery.
Really?
For grabbing, or what they say, groping the TSA agent. I mean, you can't make this up. It's priceless. This is the country we live in now, guys.
Wow. And the woman he's talking about was apparently on her way to a funeral. And wow. Think about how bad your day just got.
And she ended up missing the funeral and her flight.
Oh my goodness.
Because she was taken to jail and charged with misdemeanor battery. Good thing. I mean, I don't know. I feel safer. I feel safer. Oh yeah, looks like the other lady here from Colorado. She was booked for felony sexual abuse.
Wow, and they're dropping felony like it's hello. Like they're putting a felony charge on her for returning an act.
TSA grabs your breasts as a woman. It's for your protection. Okay. If you don't like that and you grab theirs back, that's felony sexual abuse, or it looks like you could also be charged with a lesser crime of a misdemeanor battery. charge.
Now, let's be fair. Maybe the woman, the TS agent in question, maybe she has a background in healthcare. Maybe she was just concerned about the woman's health and doing a quick mammogram, you know?
This is nuts. This is, I mean, yeah, but this is the world we live in. And according to the TSA, if you choose to fly, you choose to subject yourself to whatever they want to do in order to keep you safe.
It's good to know we have choices.
Well, apparently the TSA doesn't have any choice.
No, I mean, they don't even get to choose where they get to work at.
Right.
I mean,
they're just doing their job.
can you imagine the training video? Welcome to the TSA. First part, how to grope a woman. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, when groping a woman, it's only assault if they grope you back.
Now, and what's interesting, too, you know, if you take these, is it the uniform? I mean, I find it hard to believe that any woman walking around, whether it be the workplace or any public setting, would be okay with another woman or a man walking up to them and just grabbing their breasts. And while they're grabbing, repeating the phrase, "I'm just doing my job." Is it the uniform that people are okay with this? Is it the...
It's color blue, man.
People are just, you know, falling in line, digesting the narrative that this is all for public safety.
More so, ringing in my ears, is that these women were charged, which means that they obviously went to a trial by jury. And what is the mindset of your average citizen whenever a woman can make a case like that? She touched my breast inappropriately. I returned in kind to let her know how offensive it was. And a group of peers say, "Oh yeah, put her away."
Yeah.
Because a felony is no laughing matter. That probably ruined her career.
Oh yeah, that's big time. That's big time. So this is, yeah, I don't know. We're definitely going to be doing some follow-up on these stories. This was just kind of an impromptu kind of conversation.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's definitely going to be some follow-up here. And I find it egregious when you hear, you know, the TSA's response when they talk about how it's inappropriate for you to grab them back. How TSA's not here by choice. It's just part of their job description.
We will be calling Mr. J. Dickman, and we will be having a conversation with him if he'll allow it. It's just asinine to me.
The agency will not tolerate assaults against his workforce. So I guess as a citizenry, what if we were to take that exact same stance? What if we were to say we will not tolerate assaults? Is it? I mean, is that
I guess
too,
we
is
get
that too
felonies.
far?
I mean, she did exactly what you're saying. She said, "I will not tolerate this assault." And when it went on deaf ears, she asked. I assume this was a reciprocation. You know, you don't like that, do you? And no, I don't.
Right.
Clickety clack.
And she does mention it looks like the suspect. Okay. The perp in this case. She had complained about the aggressive pat down. So, and she looks like she had voiced her complaint to, you know, more than once. So, who knows? I wasn't there. All I do know is that you can read between. There's not much reading between the lines even to do here.
Yeah, I think we're sitting on the topic too long, honestly.
Okay, carrying on.
I think it does a nice fold into police officers. TSA, they have the authority. Police officers have the authority to shoot you if they deem it necessary. And ask yourself a question: do you want police officers serving and protecting if they think it's okay to set up a checkpoint? And you hear this thrown around a lot, especially in modern television shows and movies, as kind of a throwaway. Like, what is this, Nazi Germany? There's truth behind that statement.
Show us your papers.
Yeah, we are being detained against our will. We're being held to a ridiculous standard, and we're having our vehicles and our person searched based on the assumption that we're criminals.
You have no Fourth Amendment.
What happened to innocent until proven guilty? And we're letting this happen to us. We're laying down like dominoes.
You have no Fourth Amendment.
Well, I mean, it's a living document, as our sitting president said before. It's a living document, and who better to deconstruct the Constitution than a constitutional lawyer?
I love some of those videos that I've seen online. I'm not sure who does them, but I know like Mark Dice does a bunch of them. I love. In any case, you know, they go up to people right before the Super Bowl, for example, right before they enter the game, where they are literally putting their Fourth Amendment down because they are making themselves subject to illegal search and seizures just going to the game. And he walks around and he talks to all these fans, and he says, he asks them, who's the quarterback for the Denver Broncos? And, every fan knows Peyton Manning. How many Super Bowls has he won? They have all these stats about with the very important topic of football, okay, and how life-changing football and the knowledge of football can be. But when he asks every single fan about, do you know what your Fourth Amendment is? Not a single one. Don't even care. Some of them even went as far as to say, we don't care about that. We're here to watch a football game.
It's a dissolution of our own personal accountability.
Sure.
I go back to the Hitler thing, and I hate to do it, but Hitler had a quote. I'm once again butchering it, but he went on to say that all Americans need is football on Sundays, and they'd be easy to contain. And are we there? It seems if you can't name your local representative, but you can name you offhand how many interceptions Tony Romo has thrown, in the last season.
There's a problem there.
Your priorities are mixed up.
Right,
it goes to Sheila Jackson, representative from Texas. Recently in an interview said that she thought Neil Armstrong landed on Mars.
I read that.
On Mars
that's
in
hilarious.
1969, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm sure the date was thrown at her first, because I doubt she has the mental capacity to hold in if she thinks a comparable between the moon and Mars, then I'm sure she doesn't remember dates.
I to be honest with you, I get Mars and moon mixed up all the time. I mean, they look almost identical.
One's red. Actually, Mars isn't red.
Super interesting.
Yeah, it's one of those things like
it looks like Wyoming.
We're indoctrinated on all levels. When asked about why photos from Mars appeared red when obviously it's not red, Mars said something along the lines of, "We just wanted to give people what they expected." Like
Mars said that.
Mars in 1972 when we landed on Mars.
We actually spoke to Mars.
He politer than you would think. I mean,
the only reason he appered red,
he was angry.
According to him, was he was blushing. He's a little camera shy.
Yeah, somebody mooned him. Oh, wow. We did that, ladies and gentlemen. I apologize. But all facets of our lives are being dictated by a nonstop media that, for instance, who was that sniper for the U.S. Army who was shot at a golf course? Was it here in Texas? Not a flag, half-mast, nothing. And then you see a guy come out to be a homosexual who happens to play a sport, and he gets a phone call from the president.
Yeah.
A man fights for this country, survives, and then leads by example. Was a good man. And what happens? Nothing. Not even an honorable mention when somebody shoots him in his face while he's doing work. I remember he was doing work helping other veterans who were coming back.
It was Chris Kyle, I believe.
Chris Kyle. Yeah, he was helping other veterans get over their PTSD.
I mean, did a lot of community work.
Yeah.
And
author as well. I remember him and Jesse Ventura, who I usually agree with Jesse Ventura, but if we're going to call people out, let's call him out. I know he has an active case against Chris Kyle's deceased wife. And
so you can move.
Not sure what that was.
A little interference there. TSA, monitoring everything we do. Collect that metadata.
The metadata.
Metadata. Anyway, as you know, I mean, somebody I would consider an honorable person. He has an active lawsuit against Chris Kyle's wife because of slander, supposedly, in a book he wrote.
Are we talking about? You're talking about Ventura?
Ventura, yeah, Ventura.
Okay.
In a book that Chris Kyle wrote, apparently he said that he knocked Ventura out at a bar.
Beat his ass or something.
Yeah,
right?
beat the shit out of him in a bar.
Yeah.
And apparently, the Body, Jesse Ventura, wrestling name, the Body, Mr. Glitter himself, doesn't take kindly to no name. Didn't even name the guy. Didn't even name Jesse Ventura. Just the likeness appeared in the book. Wow, way off topic. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, but I mean, you got to operate under the assumption that every politician, even if they do good, is still an ass. And I would say that, if you believe in a politician, like we said earlier, drop us a line. Let us know what people are doing right, but hold them to the fire. If you're at your place of employment and you do really good one day and really bad the next day, you're held accountable. Why are we not holding these pillars of our community?
Sure. No, they should be held to the highest standard, you would think.
Absolutely. I mean, look at their salaries.
Well, and I thought that's what they were paid for. I mean, I thought that's the whole idea. Most people are led to believe that, with what is it? More responsibility with with more pay, or the higher the job title, the more responsibility you're going to take on, and somewhere along the line here, when it comes into politics, it actually takes some sort of like reverse effect, right?
Hollywood for ugly people.
The higher up the food chain you go, the less.
How many vacations has Barack Obama had this year, for goodness sake? I mean, I know it actually tops our previous president, who took a lot of time off.
It's interesting. It's interesting to say the least. I mean, and of course I love it every time he gives a speech. And we've got one posted up here on the AmericanVanguard.net. He says it's important that Americans take accountability. I mean, really?
That came to his speech years back about not taking a vacation as him and his family fly to Hawaii.
This was actually the tail end of this little speech he was given to the press about executive orders and how he doesn't need Congress and doesn't need to use the legislative branch of government because he has, and I quote, a pen and a phone. Super. I mean, and then to end that speech with America, you need to be accountable.
If we were to pick at every idiot thing this man said, we
sure.
would have a show that ran 24 hours a day. Although, goodness, I remember one of his first things he did whenever he became president was attend that what was it, Planned Parenthood meeting where he said that partial birth abortions were a necessity. I mean, everything he says is counterproductive. It's whatever sounds good at the time.
Sure.
And speaking of Planned Parenthood, my goodness, we have a video up on our YouTube channel, and in it's the history of the DNC, and the DNC has always been huge supporters of Planned Parenthood, and Planned Parenthood. I mean, it is at least at one time was a genocidal organization. We have a direct quote from what's her name? Woman who founded it. Goodness, unprepared today.
It escapes me, but I love the topic. Keep going.
She actually had a quote saying that they were going to sterilize African Americans, and that if they could get a couple of really well-spoken, really I guess likable black preachers to get people on board for the whole Planned Parenthood thing.
Yeah.
I mean, goodness gracious, they were sterilizing African Americans, and she states in that there's a quote where she says the last thing they want people to know is that they're actively exterminating the black race. She uses another word I won't use, but goodness,
it's unbelievable when you hear this stuff.
And this is 50 years ago. This is not a long stretch of time. The DNC has a history of claiming to be for the little guy, yet their history on paper is absolutely terrifying. I'm associating themselves with groups that think euthanasia of a certain race of person,
Sure.
Goodness.
Well, and what a slippery slope you're on. You talk about, what no matter what it is or what title you hold in society, you okay that, and what's the next step? Of course it's going to end up coming down to race, religion, political views, education, status, money.
And if you're one of those pie in the sky people who believe that, poor, I mean, absolutely disgusting decisions made by an organization with very close ties to the DNC, all of a sudden, in 1972, they just stopped. That's not the way things go. We live in reality here. If that's their plan in the 60s,
right?
How far have they gone in that plan? Goodness, we were talking the other day, me and Jay, about how African American children are being aborted in mass. It's close to genocide.
It's crazy. You start looking at the numbers. I know New York Times had wrote an article about how more black babies are aborted than born in New York City. I know Louisiana had was reporting the same statistics. So think about what's going on here. I mean that is insane. And there's no other word around it. That's genocide.
Genocide.
And these people at Planned Parenthood boast about this. This is the whole part of the plan.
And this doesn't stretch back 100 years. This stretches back half that time. 50 years ago, it was an active plan to decimate the black population. If you can sit well with that and cast your ballot for a Democrat, more power to you. Obviously, you have a lot more optimism
sure.
than I do about a party's affiliation with evil people, and I think that's the word we're all looking for here. There's evil.
Well, if you're unfamiliar with it, I would just encourage anybody listening to go look at Margaret Sanger's. Just look at the things that she says, and look at what her beliefs are. I mean, she doesn't makes no bones about it. She's proud about her stance, and it's if you got a heart pumping red blood, it's guaranteed to get you riled up.
Jay's looking at something right now. It says in her, I guess her plan for peace, she sought to eradicate people. Her words, strategy for eradication of those she deemed feeble-minded. And if anybody has been touched by mental disorder, autism,
sure.
I mean, they classify ADHD as a mental disorder nowadays. These people are the ones classifying them.
And keep this in mind. This is what she deems feeble-minded. So what is her benchmark? What is her? If you're even okay with accepting this, what are her parameters? Her criteria for feeble-minded.
I mean, are you having a seat at this table talking about? Well,
sure.
What is feeble-minded?
And I love how they always do this. You'll find this across the board. She dubs this her plan for peace. I mean, is that great or is that great?
That is just the norm here. A Patriot Act.
The plan for peace, yes. The
God,
Patriot Act. The Noble Peace drones. We've got
it's for the kids.
It's for the
kids.
children.
I saw a photo not too long ago of a parable. It showed Hitler standing behind a desk with several children. We're going to go back to Hitler a lot.
You like bringing Hitler up a lot. Sorry, yeah.
Okay. Hitler surrounding with children, signing an act that would limit firearms in Germany. And I saw Barack Obama sitting beside a desk with several children signing.
I know what you're talking about, and that actually was really creepy.
That was, we are the same people we've always been. We're a human race, and we can be toppled the same way as every great civilization has been toppled by misinformation, by propaganda, and by allowing ourselves to be distracted from the real issues of football, like he was saying, TV, and we allow these celebrities to tell us what we should believe in and why, because it's based on popular belief. You ask the average kid who won the Civil War, they're going to say the North, but if you ask them if they were Democrat or Republican, they're probably going to tell you that they were Democrat.
Sure.
You hear the word Republican now; it's synonymous with racism.
Well, yeah, that's actually an interesting point you're bringing up here. I don't even, to be quite honest with you, I don't even know what Republican means anymore.
Yeah.
When I saw the Romney Paul Ryan ticket in the last election, and I heard, of course they're dubbing Paul Ryan as this huge up and coming star. The new face for conservatism.
Oh, Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz.
And unbelievable when I heard this guy promoting more war, more government. I couldn't help but sit back and think, this is
hard.
This is the new conservative movement. More war, bigger government. Unbelievable. 20 years ago, Paul Ryan would be a hardcore Democrat.
Yep.
I venture to say 95% of these so-called conservatives we have today, just a couple decades ago, would be considered the far left. So it is interesting. When I hear the word Republican, I don't know what that means anymore.
I like to equate it to what's happening to our culture as a whole. We name streets beachside, and it's in the middle of a rocky field. Our ideals have changed. Our understanding of the world around us has changed to be a vanilla, very bland, very just, straight road where both politicians believe the same things and actively it's a wrestling match.
It is interesting.
They yell at each other, they scream at each other, they make ridiculous quotes, and yet nothing ever gets accomplished except for the quota.
And we fall for it as people. We fall for it over and over again. We watch, the lights kick on, the fog machines turn on, and they come, dancing out all hyped up, and obviously they get into these little verbal matches. But what we don't see, and we all know what's going on, but we don't see it. So I guess in our mind, absence of mind, they go backstage. They crack a cold one together and they hang out and they talk. I mean, these people oftentimes, I mean, their kids are going to the same school. They're hanging out at the golf courses together. Yep. These people have history.
And it's an old Texas euphemism. You talk a lot, but you say very little. They may be saying all this stuff, but what are they really saying? The debate between Mitt Romney and Barack Obama was just a laugh fest. I had popcorn and a soda pop. Like, these cats were talking about Well, I agree with exactly what you said. Only I would take it a step further.
Yeah, there were some
What kind of
troubling
choice
parts.
is that?
Right. Well, and when you talked about the gun control thing from the presidential debates, I mean that I could not recall a time when I saw two opposing candidates, and I use that term loosely, arguing the same points, and they were saying who was the bigger gun grabber. It was scary, man. It was unbelievable.
And I just take this moment to say Mitt Romney looks like a doll. Something definitely wrong with that guy's face piece. Yeah, hit with an ugly stick. That is $400 hair right there. These people, Hillary Clinton. My goodness, if you are a Hillary Clinton supporter, I mean, I would just like to have a long sit-down conversation with you about just common sense. We're a country without common sense. Recently,
Common sense is not so common.
Recently, her husband, Bill Clinton, was photographed with two high-class prostitutes at a party. Prostitutes. And, I mean...
It is a victimless crime.
But we're going to elect a woman whose husband, a previous president... He's sleeping with the prostitutes, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, when's the last time you were just at a party with two hookers?
Look, he's sleeping with her. I mean, in defense here of Hillary, allow me to simply say, with all due respect, what difference does it make?
They didn't know that.
With all due respect, the fact is we had 4 dead Americans. Was it because of a protest, or was it because of guys out for a walk one night who decided they'd go kill some Americans? What difference at this point does it make?
Hillary Clinton, just the antithesis of what it is to be a functioning adult. I remember...
She scares me.
I followed her career way back, long before I was born, trust me, to where even as a lawyer, she was shrouded in controversy and bad practices. And I mean,
oh yeah,
you'd be hard pressed to find somebody who knows her who has a good thing to say about her.
Oh yeah,
our power of media today has risen to the point where we can make somebody as unlikable, as uncouth as this wildebeest we call Hillary Clinton into some sort of tool for women to look up to and admire. Like what country do we live in where we can have Hillary Clinton revered?
That's crazy, right? I mean, that is you're talking about. I mean, this is now going to be the face of.
And it's a double-edged sword. With all this technology is used to berate us and put us into a place. Yet at the same time, we have this technology at our fingertips for the time being. I mean, there's plenty of bills, at least thought about, almost brought to the table, that would limit our resources to finding the truth about veterans or politicians or your boss. They want to limit our access to this information, but we still have it, ladies and gentlemen. And if you like somebody as a politician, if you like anybody in our government, do your research on them. Know everything there is to know about them.
Well, and that's just doing your due diligence. I think. I mean, that really an informative group, is a powerful group. They say knowledge is power, and I really think that holds true.
It goes to let's take segregation. Hefty topic, but the Democratic Party of 60 years ago was all about segregation. Yet now, an uninformed mass would tell you that they fought for civil rights. Not one single Democrat voted for civil rights for blacks. Not one single Democrat voted. Who was the president who ran on a platform of segregation now, segregation tomorrow, segregation forever? And this is our recent past, ladies and gentlemen. These politicians are sneaky, snaky, evil people who will do just about anything to confuse you.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you dig deep enough, you're going to find
a
field of skeletons.
Sure.
Like Bill Clinton, for instance. Goodness, the Clinton conspiracy. What do they call it? The Clinton body count. How many people?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. The body count. How many people associated with the Clintons have wound up
dead? Wow, that's not funny. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen.
No,
but
it's seriously. I mean, and they're all kind of ruled like ruled a suicide. And there's been a long time since I've read about some of this stuff, but it's crazy. Or mysterious deaths, or I mean, come on. Usually, I guess where there's smoke, there's fire. That's how I was raised. And
Yeah.
So, these are people in high positions, though. These are people that have an insane amount of power to wield, and I think it behooves us to take a good hard look at who we have representing us.
At the end of the day, at least hold them to their own standards. Came out a couple years ago that Michelle Obama worked as some sort of administrative assistant or something similar in a hospital that refused to help low-income people.
Right.
Refused to even give them the medical treatment they required.
Right.
And if I recall properly, she was a big part of that. She was pushing for it. So how can you have a president tell you that he deeply cares about people when his wife was actively refusing to help the underprivileged? And why do we need a revamp of healthcare? They say people are dying in the streets. People aren't dying in the streets. You can get more. You can get healthcare. A couple of years ago, you could walk into any hospital across the country that wasn't privately owned,
sure,
and get the treatment you needed without pay.
The healthcare thing is unbelievable. I remember reading about the Prime Minister. Was it Prime Minister in Canada? They go by those titles, and he needed a heart surgery. This was 5-6 years ago, and he came to the United States. And when he was asked, as a government official, your country gives you free health care. Why are you going to the United States? And his answer was sweet, simple, right to the point, but rang so true. He said the United States has the best health care, the best doctors, the best surgeons. This is my heart, so I'm going to go to the best.
And play devil's advocate, but the president says it's not good, and why would he lie to us? And that's the question. Why are they lying to us? Why are they... I mean, and it's pretty simple. You cut to the point. I'm not going to tell you what's going on, but I'm going to give you some information to look into. Why would a country want to get rid of good healthcare in place of a government-subsidized healthcare? And the answer to that, ladies and gentlemen, it's happened a lot. It's happened over the history of this.
Now, there is problems. I mean, there's obvious problems with the healthcare system. In my opinion,
absolutely.
In my opinion, there's problems, and when the healthcare when the prices are driven up so high, most people can't afford it. At least afford the quality. Yeah, there's problems here. I think in my opinion, you start with the insurance companies, but again, the insurance companies run the show. So yeah, who's going to keep them accountable?
Yeah, and who wrote this bill? And what did it have in it?
Sure.
I believe the direct quote from Nancy Pelosi was, "We need to read this bill to see what's in it."
But we have to pass the bill so that you can find out what is in it away from the fog of the controversy.
And that's not the approach you need to take to something as important as healthcare.
Well,
I'm not
in
saying
her
that,
defense, it did need away from the fog of the controversy.
Away,
right?
yeah, away from the fog. It's as simple as that, ladies and gentlemen. It's exactly what I'm saying. To the point is,
you're not as dumb as they want you to be.
Yes. You're not as dumb as they want you to be. Why would they not want you to read the bill, ladies and gentlemen? Why would they not want you to read the bill?
Two major things I have here.
If it's so friggin' good for you.
Yeah, I mean that's obvious on the face of it. That's a great point. I guess a couple of issues I have, I understand. Okay, intentions may be good, great. You want to take care of people and you want to make it the Affordable Care Act. Well, make it affordable then. But I do have a problem. There's something that just goes against every American fiber in my being when I'm told I have to purchase something or be penalized. I have to purchase something, anything, whatever it is, or I will be penalized. I mean, that really takes away the, freedom of choice. I guess you still have the choice.
Hey,
but
we're just like the TS agents. We don't have a choice.
Right, just doing our jobs. But yeah, I guess, to start there, being told that you have to purchase something.
If you don't see something wrong with that, then
just right there, fundamentally,
read the Constitution.
Fundamentally, that is crazy. And could you take that logic and apply it anywhere else in life? I mean, anything.
Government logic as a whole is fundamentally flawed. The way they look at things, it's not a way to help you, ladies and gentlemen. If you believe that the government is out for you, they're out for you, all right.
Well, and we're talking
but it's not to help.
We're talking about a bureaucratic government here who couldn't successfully run a cash for clunkers program. And we want them now running our health care? I'll pass.
And let's take it from the standpoint of an average American citizen who, I don't know, runs a business. Let's say somebody's sitting down in front of you and they say, hey, we have a new health care bill that we want to be voted on by our shareholders, and we want to pass it through. It's really, really good. Can I read it? No.
There's too much fog of controversy.
I mean, a lot of people are upset about this bill because we don't know what's inside of it. I vote for one that let's not read it and pass it anyway. We'll find out what's inside of it afterwards.
It seems to me like that there has already got to be some crime that's taken place. Just to admit that, even to say, it seems like as an elected official, one of your job descriptions
is to read the bills.
Would be to be present to vote and to read what you're voting on. I don't know if that's, technically I don't know if that is an official job requirement, but it seems like it ought to be. And if it is, it's pretty crazy that they are just admittingly, we can't read it. Let's push it through.
Yeah, obviously they're just like the TSA. They don't have a choice. And ladies and gentlemen, if you take anything away from this podcast tonight, it's that you have a choice. The only person who's keeping you from choosing to live however you want to live, gay, straight, Republican, Democrat, somewhere in between, the only thing preventing you from having a say is you. All you have to do is stand up and be counted. Wave your flag, wave your hand, scream at the top of your lungs and say, do your job.
Right. Do your job. I mean, that's maybe what it comes down to. I mean, it really is that simple, isn't it?
Maybe we're living in that fantasy world again, but I would like to live in a world where politicians are held to a standard that they perceive to already be at.
Well, what's crazy is, they pass these laws and they vote these laws in, and there's always this clause that exempts them. The healthcare bill, for starters.
Yeah.
It's rather amazing how these laws, on the face of it, they are meant for me and you and our listeners, but they're not meant for the ones that are passing the laws. I don't know. That's I guess we can kind of expand on that at another time.
I think that that's going to conclude our broadcast. But we want to say we appreciate you for listening. If you are out there,
absolutely,
and visit AmericanVanguard.net, our Facebook affiliate, and soon-to-be Twitter account.
Facebook page is awesome.
It's pretty good. Be sure to check out Exposed, our archives, some of the videos we have on our media section. It's rocking and rolling, ladies and gentlemen.
That's right. We also have some T-shirts here. We've got the Vigilante brand. So be vigilant.
We're vigilantes. All right, thank you again, ladies and gentlemen.
And that'll do it for the this week's episode of
Weekly Ration.
Your Weekly Ration. I'm Jay.
I'm Curtis.
See you next week.